I would like, if I may, to take you on a strange journey.
Hello, welcome to the Cultworthy Cinema Podcast. Here I am with two of my favorite people in the podcasting world, my good friends Roy and Jon of the Yours, Mine, and Theirs podcast. Welcome, gentlemen.
Glad to be here, sir. Yeah, it's good to be back.
Hi, Antonio. Thanks for having us back.
You are so welcome. So, we have done 2 episodes of Kids in Danger. We said, what if the kids were the danger? And so this time we're doing something different and we're bringing dangerous kids, or as I like to call this episode, Beat on the Brats. We've each brought a movie about devious, mischievous, murderous, cannibalistic children. And I think just like the last time, we've brought 3 very different movies because in this realm, in my mind, I just think, oh, it's just going to be psychopathic children with knives and blades and, trying to kill people. But knowing you guys, you're always going to be a little bit more esoteric. And we brought a gripping drama. We brought probably one of the most quintessential grindhouse movies of all time. And then just good old-fashioned 90s cheesy fun thriller. That was mine. So, yeah.
Well, I love your title, Beat on the Brats. But was there enough brat beating here? I think no.
that we are supposed to be the ones beating them.
Okay.
Maybe if there'd been more
I'm just saying the movies did not. Yeah. There was. I feel a crazy. First of all, a lot of anxiety watching these movies. I think
the childless one in the room.
Right. Yeah, no, and this is the reason why, right? And I think, so many, especially horror movies, are kind of about this. Like, this is like so much body horror is sort of a little bit about pregnancy, and this is like post-pregnancy. Like, what if our offspring are monsters? Like, is that something? And I mean, you folks as parents, I don't know if you've ever thought that, because there is something that switches in the minds of most parents, right? Where it's this certainly this sort of evolutionary thing where parents kind of have to make their kids their world. And I've seen this countless times where I've seen a lot of bratty kids and I've seen parents that love the bratty kids. I'm like, that lousy environmental thing that just triggers with parents. It's like, it shouldn't take effect in this particular case. But is that ever a worry? Because it's always a worry for me. And that's one thing that I'm like, I'm never having kids, because what if they're a little bit like me, but more evil? And I can't handle that.
So I have 2 thoughts. So I have 6 kids, and fortunately only 2 of them are pure evil. So I think I did pretty good numbers wise.
Odds, yeah, those are good numbers. Yeah.
And then I will say, like, you are right about kids who like, or parents who like their awful kids, because I love my kids to death, and I think I'm fairly clear-eyed about their faults, but I do love them to death. But I'll say, like, for the most part, I don't like other people's kids. I hate babysitting.
Yeah.
And I hate even like spending time with in-laws where they have small children. So, and then especially if the kid wants to engage with me, like sit on my lap or any kind of engagement, I don't know. I'm a bad human being when it comes to other people's kids.
I think that's preternatural, though.
I think you're human, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and that's what we see in these movies that we're about to talk about. Like, one of the problems of the kid's villainy is the blindness of it has to be someone other than the parents who sees kids' villainy. It has to be.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I'd say 2 of the movies, right? 2 of the movies, the parents are blind to what their kids are, right?
Right. Essentially, the theme that adults are useless, I think, is one of the main themes that we have in a couple of these movies.
That's true. I would say, I'm pretty sure Larry Talbot understands that his kids are murderous cannibals. I think he understands that, and he just like kind of wrings his hands about it.
but they're not really his kids. Remember, he's just kind of
They're
like
not
their
even his
taker.
kids. That's true. Yeah.
So I think
Yeah.
that is why he's like,
Yeah.
well, I made a promise to their father that I will always protect them, you know. And he's got his own things going on too.
Killed another guy.
You killed another mailman and pulled him through the window. Well, so since we're there, we should start with that film. But before we do, let's do a quick kind of how you doing? Because we've both kind of started like new years, new seasons, so to speak, of our shows. You guys do an annual thing. Apparently, I'm what is the word for every 3 years? Is there a word for that? It's been 3 years, and I finally decided to do a new season.
Yeah. You're our triennial spectacular. Is it really every 3 years? Well, I will
I just
say,
made that decision this year.
I mean, by some, in 2024, by some of our accountants, you were the most listened to podcast that we had on Yours, Mine, and Theirs.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Congratulations.
And so that's worth stating. Yeah. So you're keeping us alive over there. Ah, yes. I was hoping you pull that out. Everybody watch the video at this moment. Yeah.
Yeah, we had a Moonlight La La Land moment when we gave out the award live on our podcast, and we had 2 sets of data apparently, which I don't understand why they don't show the same thing.
Right.
But anyway, so congratulations on being Moonlight to our 2024 podcast.
Yay! I'll take it. I don't care who I am.
You're the winner. Yeah, you're the one who's showing the evidence. But yeah, for anybody out there, you too can give us 20 hours of your time, and you might get a Zazzle made mug out of it.
I was happy to see it.
That's our ad.
And the people that I turned onto your show because of my appearance on the Alien episode, the space horror episode, not only did you guys get new fans for your show through that, but the film The Hidden got a lot of new fans. You know, because I have the DVD, and I had so many people being like, "Can I borrow that? Can I borrow that? Can I borrow that?" And I'll probably turn it into like a double feature at one of my movie nights. But yeah, I think that film got more popular than like your show based through my interaction with that episode. So you're welcome.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, that was The Hidden was a big winner at our year-end awards, where we went over a bunch of our surprises and stuff for the year. So yeah, The Hidden. I have you to thank for that. And every time I say The Hidden, the title of the movie The Hidden, I think of you saying, "I remember watching it on USA Up All Night with Gilbert Gottfried. It's The Hidden.
It's The Hidden."
You said it that way.
Oh yes, rest in peace. So yeah, you guys have already started your new season. You started off with some horror movies. I really loved the episode about okay, that's the confusing part, because you had The Haunting, but then last year towards the end of the year you had The Haunting of Hell House or Hill House.
Yeah.
Okay,
The Legend
the
of
Legend of Hell House was during our Halloween marathon. Yes, so it's not the same property, but I mean, anyway, it's kind of the same movie. It's more
close.
Roddy McDowell than The Haunting.
Very much. Yeah. And then The Haunting was...
But yeah, as I mentioned, Hill House, Hell House, the similarities are there if you look.
Right. If you look.
They're hard
and then
to
you
find,
also
but-
had House Su.
Yeah.
Yeah, all fun episodes for sure. Cool. So I can't wait to get back on the show. I'm sure it's going to be later on in the year. I don't even think we've decided what I'm doing yet, but I think it's June or July, which I'm excited because your guys' show is the only one that I have to like really have special permission and schedule way out in advance, because it's the only show that's like 3 hours. And I have to literally be the best boy for my partner to support that much time away from the baby.
That's very sweet. So last
It's very sweet. Yeah, we shot ourselves in the foot with the whole concept of our show.
Yeah.
It's just so inaccessible to everybody. It's hilarious how many blocks we set for ourselves. Sorry, Roy.
No, you're right, because like whoever's listening to it really should have watched the movies, but is anyone really watching the movies? I don't know. Not very many people. So, but I will. So when you came on last year, not the Halloween time, but when you came on last year, did you bring 3 movies you'd never seen before?
Yeah, I did the 3 movies I'd never seen before, and then we did the space one. And then the prior year, we did the movies to get to know me by, and then we did trucker movies.
All right, so what you're going to be doing this year is you're going to be doing movies from your birth month, and one of them has to be your birth month and year, and then any 10-year anniversary of that birth month and year.
Shit, because March is known for like the worst time of the year for movies, like the February and March.
Yeah, actually, I've got March coming up for myself too, but I've got some beauty movies. I've already chosen them. I'm pretty excited. So
Nice, you're gonna use up all mine. Great.
well, I think we're born in different years, so I think we'll be okay. So
Gotcha. Okay, so let's go ahead and start this conversation of the beat on the Brats. We are already talking about it, so I do believe this was Roy's film to bring to the show. We're talking about Spider Baby, or the maddest story ever told.
this movie's so great, and I tried to find a reason to watch this for our podcast last year because I don't know why I came upon this film. I've no idea what compelled me to watch it, but I know we used a ton of quotes for our annual Halloween CD from this movie a year or two ago. But anyway, yeah, this movie's really great. So our narrator, right, starts out the movie doing some light reading. It's the Dictionary of Rare and Peculiar Diseases. And tonight's rare and peculiar disease is the Mary syndrome, which is a super rare disease in that it only occurred within a very small family, the Mary family. It's like Homer Simpson syndrome, right? It only occurs in one person. But anyway, apparently starting around age 10, you experience age regression until you start acting like your prenatal self. I swear he said you can regress to your prenatal state, and I have no idea what that means.
I don't think he knows what it means.
I guess before you were a baby, you were a cannibal? Is that what that means? I don't know.
I was looking so forward to seeing this syndrome.
Right.
But as far as I could tell, it was just a bunch of kids who killed people.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I don't really know, like, the definition of the syndrome that they mentioned at the beginning. Because I was expecting some kind of Benjamin Button sort of thing that kind of happened. But
so we can only extrapolate.
I don't know.
From what we see,
like
right?
the older brother. What's his name?
Ralph.
I guess he was like a really, really. Yeah, Ralph was a really, really big kid, right? And that's what we.
Yeah, apparently Ralph is like the encyclopedic version of what they're trying to portray. Like he would be the stuffed mounted display at the museum of Mary syndrome. And Ralph, played by Sid Haig. I always thought Sid Haig was creepy as hell in all the blaxploitation movies, in the Rob Zombie movies. There is nothing more disturbing than Sid Haig as a man baby dressed as little Lord Fauntleroy. I'm telling you, dude, it's beautiful.
He really shined up for dinner, didn't he? So I think he is where the girls are headed. If their brains keep rotting, eventually they'll not be able to talk anymore. They'll go bald. And I think he does more of the eating. I'm under the impression he's consuming most of the dead bodies in the house. But anyway,
well, his teeth wrap all the way around his head, so he's the one to consume.
So, but what we need to anyway. So let me take you back to 10 years ago, because this movie starts like in the present, but now we're going back 10 years, right? So we meet Virginia for the first time, and she's the brunette girl. There's two girls. There's a brunette and a blonde. Virginia's the brunette. Elizabeth's the blonde. So there's a delivery man that comes to the house to deliver a letter, and no one answers the door. So he sticks his head in the window, which is what any delivery person would do. Just put half your body through the window. Yeah. So the window falls down on him, and she catches him with a net. And everyone knows that you cannot escape a net. It's too heavy. It's too powerful. So he's stuck. And she promptly turns his face into a pincushion and cuts off his ear.
She's Spider Baby, right?
She's a Spider Baby.
Her knives, her blades, I think, are the representation of spider fangs, because that's how she holds them, and that's how she goes after people. And essentially, they're like, "Oh, were you playing Spider Baby again?" like this isn't the first mailman.
Yeah, so yeah, she calls him a bug, and she says that he's caught in her web. Anyway, there's a great part where he's being knifed in the face about 100 times, and we see his legs wiggling outside the house.
It's beautiful,
and that's pretty great. Anyway, her sister Elizabeth catches her and kind of scolds her. Is Elizabeth supposed to be more responsible? I know we're told by Bruno, the chauffeur driver, the limo driver, that Elizabeth's in charge. So maybe she's a little older. By the way, I don't know.
I think because she has like just a binary version of right and wrong. Like he has to say, okay, this doesn't have to be wrong. Although, like, she is like crazy in the sense that she doesn't like killing things, but she likes moralizing. Like, that's her
Mm.
flaw and power, right? And that's what makes her good to be put in charge, because she's so extreme in that way.
Can you tell me why this family has a limo driver and a limo?
I think that
Well, they're well
they
off,
were well
right?
off. Yeah, they were well off.
They're well off enough to own a person.
I'm also thinking that Bruno was probably in this family's ward since he was a child. So not only does he have tenure, he also has like a psychological and familial attachment to them because he's so protective of them, even to a fault, which comes up, later on in the movie.
Yeah. And we do know that they are well off because that is what drives the whole story. There's a money grubbing lawyer and some family that have come to claim the house, right? So anyway, Bruno, played by Lon Chaney Jr., of course. An older Lon Chaney Jr., but he's great, man. That guy never like phones it in. He's great. So he's pretty upset that they killed someone, but not overly upset, right? He's just like a little bit put off and a little anxious about it. But anyway, the good news is he's brought Ralph home. So now they're all together again. It turns out that what the delivery driver was bringing was a letter saying that we have a lawyer, Mr. Schlocker, is coming. Yeah, is coming with his clients, the Howes, and his secretary, Anne. So they're all coming, and so they've got to get the place ready. We also learned that they have a couple of aunts and uncles that also live in the house. They live in the basement, and we never really see them. There's some hand and arm action. They're kind of under the floorboards a little bit. So there's
right. Is that Mary syndrome? It's like,
I think they're the worst case.
Once you are prenatal, you live underground, and you're mostly clutching arms and your arms and legs that grab at things. That's what prenatal beings
that hole
do.
in the floor is like a womb that they have gone back into. And also, everyone knows that when you're in the womb, you grow an enormous amount of body and facial hair. So
This is true.
Which we'll learn later.
Right. They turn into cat people, right?
Oh, I
or something.
I thought, who's the uncle? What's his name? It's
Uncle Ned.
Ned, Uncle Ned, the dog face boy. Yeah. All right. Anyway, the first two arrive are cousins Peter, and I'm going to just call her Meryl Streep. That's Meryl Streep. You can't tell me otherwise. So they make the point that Meryl considers the shoulder of the road just another lane. I don't know why that's in the movie, but she's a really bad driver. Maybe the point is women drivers, right? I don't know. So, but yeah, they arrive at the house at the same time. Bruno returns from picking up the lawyer, and then Bruno tries to warn them that the kids can get a little bit excited. It
Just
might not be a good idea to hang out tonight. But they insist on having dinner, and they're going to spend the night. So now they come in the house, and the lawyer like loudly discusses that the girls are insane about 10 feet away from them. And we know they can hear because Elizabeth turns to Virginia and says, "They're talking about us." And Virginia says, "I know." And so, they're not dumb. They've just got Mary syndrome.
Can I just make a quick comment on that? I love the line deliveries in this movie because they are kind of very like theatrical. So Jack Hill, who wrote and directed this movie, he also did a lot of exploitation movies. My favorite being Switchblade Sisters, which is kind of like a female version of the Warriors. And the actresses in that speak the same way. Like there's a very kind of like nya nya nya-ism to the way they say their dialogue. So knowing that these were two films both written by him, I know that was like a directional. That was a point that he was trying to make. Is like, hey, I want you guys to be like these smarmy little girls who know everything about everything. And it adds the creepiness, and it reminds me of Sherry Moon Zombie's performances in the Devil's Trilogy. Like, her playing the Firefly girl, she says her lines very similar, where there's a lot of kind of cheesiness and kind of nya 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 to it. And I'm like, wow, if there wasn't already a lot of Spider Baby in the Rob Zombie movies, the way these girls perform, especially so.
I mean, that I suppose that reminds me of the girls in Suspiria, because the girls in Suspiria talk like, what does she say? You're a rat. You're a snake. You're a snake. I'm like, what's going on with these girls? And I guess it's because when they wrote the script, it was supposed to be like a ballet school for 10-year-olds,
Right.
but
Oh, yeah.
when they
Ended
aged
up
up
casting
everybody,
women.
they never changed the lines.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it kind of is fun that way, though. It's still
It makes
fun.
a lot of fun. Yeah.
Well, I love these girls. I love Elizabeth and Virginia. I love their line deliveries. I love their interplay with each other. They're great. Anyway, we can't keep discussing stealing the house until we have dinner. So Ralph catches dinner. It's not rabbit. That's what the guests are told, but we definitely watch him catch a cat. So anyway, dinner's a pretty good spread. You've got the cat, rabbit, and you have what I swear is a large bowl of grass, and that's the salad.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it's just long grass, right?
He calls them delicious greens, fresh, delicious greens. And Uncle Peter's all about it. He's like, well, that looks really great, honey. Doesn't that look good?
Yeah, he's all in on the food, and he's so positive. And
He's a
he
very
just like
positive guy.
doesn't want to upset anyone, and he wants to go along and be really friendly, and that's going to cause a problem at the end of this film. But so the lawyer. And no one wants to eat the food except for Peter, and Peter's eating all the food. Also, they make a point that Virginia's really good at picking non-poisonous mushrooms. I guess that's just to make her a little more creepy. I don't know if we need that to make her be more creepy because, I mean, she murdered a guy by stabbing him in the face like 20 times, so that's pretty good. So anyway, Peter reassures everyone that the house is not haunted, and then we get this discussion on horror films, right? And it turns out that Anne's a really big horror film fan. Her favorite is The Mummy, which disappoints me because The Mummy is one of the most boring classic horror films of all time. It's just super boring. But then she mentions The Wolfman, and this is great. This is kind of pandering to the audience, but I love that Lon Chaney Jr. gets to deliver his line that there's going to be a full moon tonight.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just straight out of The Wolfman, and it's beautiful. So thank you for letting him do that. Anyway, as night falls, Peter and Anne head into town to find a motel because there's not enough bedrooms in this ginormous house. But what can you do? Meryl Streep decides to go in her room, and I'm pretty sure she spends several hours dancing in front of her mirror in her underwear. I'm not tracking the passage of time really well, but she is doing that for some time.
She wore Fredericks of Hollywood,
Yeah.
like lingerie, to this like stoic business, like to the takeover of a house,
Right.
Yeah.
which is an energy I don't find any logic to, but I suppose I understand. I guess there's some kind of like power element.
No, this is pre-TikTok. This is
All it took
pre-Instagram.
was her finding like this. Yeah, it's just a sheath of cloth for her to like just make the outfit complete. It's like, now I'm gonna dance all night.
I don't know. Maybe she's really digging on stealing this house from this poor family, and it makes her feel powerful. And
this is how she
celebrates with
expresses
her.
it.
Yeah. Anyway, so let's see. Blah 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 blah. So Schlocker, and I don't understand this. Schlocker decides to investigate the house. Like, he is poking all over the house. And is there a reason? Like, has he been led to believe that there's something devious to be looking for? I really don't know what he thinks he's looking for.
I got two things from this. First of all, why does Schlocker have a German man mustache? Yeah. And number two, him snooping around the house, I was like, oh, this is like Barbarian. He's essentially Justin Long trying to see if there's extra square footage that he can add so it has a higher property value until he gets Barbarian. But yeah, that's what I got
The
from it.
lawyer, if you're on the team to take over a home, then if you could find anything to like make it easier, right? Like some kind, I guess blackmail is a strong word, but it's like, okay, if you're gonna, like, this will lower the property value. If I find that there are a bunch of dead bodies here, we're gonna, take this for a song. We're gonna you're gonna knock down $100 off the price if we find any dead bodies.
That makes a lot more
I think
sense.
that was his angle.
Well, you would think the ear then is worth at least $50, right? He finds an ear and he's like initially kind of shocked, but then he's like, it's just an ear, right?
Just an ear.
And so he, yeah.
I suppose this isn't a part of the house.
Yeah. So anyway, we find out during this time also that the girl's father is still in the house, but kind of in the Norman Batesy kind of way. He's sleeping in his bedroom as a skeleton, and the girls kiss him goodnight. It's kind of creepy, but he's a skeleton. So dad is home. Let's see.
It's the cleanest skeleton ever. Yeah.
Yeah. It's not like a decomposed body. It's like science lab skeleton, right?
It's a spirit Halloween kind of,
I
skeleton.
feel like Peter probably picked it clean.
Anyway, Schlocker finds the secret door that leads to the basement where he meets the extended family. We should mention there's a dumbwaiter that is used extensively in this film to like transport both Ralph but also dead bodies. And I'm assuming the dead bodies get transported into the basement for the cannibalism.
Hmm.
I swear one of the dead bodies was going upstairs. Maybe Ralph is already cannibalizing and he gets to eat by himself upstairs. So I don't know. But that's a thing. There was an old Sierra game called The Colonel's Bequest that heavily featured a dumbwaiter. And I don't know if you guys played the Sierra games back in the 90s, but anyway.
I only heard you say that The Colonel's Bequest was a very difficult game.
It was very difficult, yeah. All right, go get an emulator, download The Colonel's Bequest. Yeah, all right. All right, so anyway, Schlocker goes down to the basement. This scene's so great. We see Virginia and Elizabeth at the top of the stairs, but the light is from behind them, so it's just silhouette-y, and it's just so creepy, and it's so menacing and very silhouette-y. And they discuss what to do with him, and then they rush down the stairs to stab him, and his lines are so incongruent. Like, as he's being attacked by these girls, he says, "Beyond the bounds of rodents and good taste."
That was my favorite line in the movie. I have it written down.
Like, they're stabbing him to death, and he says, "This isn't right. There are proper procedures." And I don't know what the proper procedure for being mutilated by a couple girls are, but they're not following it. So Elizabeth finishes him off with like a little, a girl-sized pitchfork. So Bruno comes home in time to see Schlocker's dead body going up the dumbwaiter, and he's like, "Again, here we go again, right?" Another dead body in the dumbwaiter. So anyway, he finds the girls, and I think he's finally at a point where he's like, I think they're probably going to keep murdering people, so maybe we need to do something about this. And he tells them he's going to go into town and get them a big surprise and bring it back, and they should wait there for him, and they're going to be so happy. So he leaves. Meanwhile, Meryl is still dancing in her room, and she is interrupted by Ralph, who's been watching her. So she runs out of her room, and then she sees Schlocker's dead body going, I think being, kind of dealt with by the girls. And so she freaks out. She leaves the house. The girls chase after her with knives and forks, literally. Ralph saves her from the girls, and by saves her, I thought he killed her and ate her, but I think he does something more disturbing.
That's
which
what
is also
I gather.
Yeah, because I thought she was dead, but she comes back, and she comes back as kind of a sex-crazed woman, which is what happens when you get assaulted. Everyone knows that, right? That it just
I
makes
think
you
that
real
she
horny,
probably
so.
caught Myers syndrome.
Oh, yeah.
It maybe is transferred by saliva or something. It's gone person to person.
Oh, yeah. Maybe that's it. I mean, I guess it's set up a little bit that, okay, you know what? This buttoned up lady, the most buttoned up lady, it's set up a little bit that she's kind of a freak with that
Right.
whole like dancing in the black. She wears the black underwear. She dances in it for several hours. So I guess, what, would be kind of a traumatic experience for some is a fulfillment for this freaky lady.
Yeah, she's like a character in a David Lynch film.
There's a lot of David Lynchism in this movie too. Like that's the other thing I want to say. I'm like, wow, like this movie being the obscure grindhouse movie that it is, does have a lot of DNA that we've seen in a lot of different filmmakers' works in the 70s, 80s.
Yeah, I
90s.
was thinking a bit of, I mean, they find an ear.
Yeah, they find an ear.
Is that
Here we are.
yeah, did
Blue-
Lynch do the ear thing for Blue
Blue
Velvet,
Velvet, yeah.
based on this? It seems like this is like one of those movies that, okay, you know what? It was like lost for a long time, but I feel like many people, David Lynch, Tobe Hooper, they were fans. Like no one knows this movie. I'm going to take a lot of this stuff from this
Yeah.
movie and I'm going to twist it very
Lots
sideways.
of filmmakers, I agree.
Yeah. All right, here's the stunning conclusion. Peter and Anne have decided to come back to the house because they can't find a single vacancy in a motel in town because they spent too long at like the tavern just getting, I don't know, drunk or enjoying.
Sloshed. They were hammered.
They were hammered, yeah. Anyway, they come back. Elizabeth takes Anne. He says, we'll take care of Anne. And Virginia takes care of Peter. And Elizabeth takes Anne up to her father's room where Ralph grabs her and then kidnaps her and takes her down the dumbwaiter into the basement. Now, Peter, I don't understand Peter. I don't know like what point is too far for Peter, but it's pretty far out there, right? So she starts to tie him up and he's like, "Oh, this is fun. The tying up game, right?
We're playing Spider Baby."
We're playing Spider Baby, and he gets totally tied to this chair, and then she wants to be the sexy spider, and he's like, "I think this is maybe a bit too much." And then she's like, "Oh, what's wrong? Don't you like spiders?" He's like, "Yeah, I like spiders." Right? And it's pretty creepy, but she's just about to sting him, which is what spiders do. But she is saved because Elizabeth comes and gets her because she needs her help dealing with Anne. So here's the problem. And I think we've all been there, right? The girls just want to stab Anne to death, but Ralph wants to do what Ralph wants to do with her. What do? We compromise. So the girls are just going to stab her enough to slow her down, drain a little bit of blood so that she doesn't move so much, and then Ralph can eat her or whatever he's going to do. Just going to cut you, yeah. And just going to cut you with a hacksaw. Just a little bit of foot, right? A little bit of foot, right? Anyway, they are unsuccessful because Meryl Streep returns and she attacks Ralph. Ralph throws her to the cousins who I assume eat her instantly.
That's what I
get. Yeah. And then poor Anne, I thought she fell into the cousin hole too, but she falls into like a coffin or something, just like a box. Anyway, Bruno comes home. He sees the situation, and the present that he brought them is a bundled thing of TNT, kind of like what you would see in a cartoon, right?
Acme. I think it said Acme on it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Right. And he's like, here's your surprise. There's going to be a wonderful bang. And Peter comes down. Of course, Peter falls down the dumbwaiter. That's the only way into the basement. He falls down the dumbwaiter, and Bruno says, "Take Anne and go." And they escape just in time before Bruno blows up the whole place. But not before we get to see the aunts and the uncle, who, like we said, are all like hairy dog-faced people, right?
Yeah. Which is very Wes Craven People Under the Stairs-ish, in my opinion.
So back to the present, we learned that all the Marys were killed. Their gross disease died with them. Peter married Anne, and they have a beautiful girl who definitely does not have Mary syndrome. Or does she?
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah. Because at the end it says, "The end?" Question mark? Yeah, because the girl...
Always the best way to end a film.
The girl...
And the end question mark.
I think we see her looking at a spider, and because she finds a spider fascinating, it definitely means she's got Mary syndrome, so...
Yeah. So my take on the Mary syndrome thing is I think that they didn't really focus a lot on the cannibalism, probably because of censorship laws and stuff. But I would assume that Mary syndrome essentially is like a mad cow disease kind of thing, where if you consume an infected cannibalistic diet, brain, whatever, and you get that syndrome that they get in cannibal tribes, like I forget where those are, in Southeast Asia or wherever. I think that's what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be like a representation of both. So that was the way I took it.
Yeah, and Larry Talbot says that their brains are rotting. Again, in front of the girls, he mentions their brains are rotting. And then he says something else. Oh, I can't remember. But yeah. So I don't know, man. Mary syndrome. It doesn't sound like a lot of fun. Oh no, that's what it is. They're vegetarians because vegetarianism slows down the disease, process. Right? Mm-hmm. And I think we understand that when they are eating meat, it's typically cannibal meat, and so it's making the Mary syndrome worse. To your point,
or
about,
cat meat,
cannibalism.
Yeah.
Who's the person who made Raw? You guys saw that movie Raw like from 10 years ago, right?
Yeah, the French film, yeah.
I think that's another thing. It's like, okay, we have to raise our girls to be vegetarians because once they taste any sort of flesh, they're going to start eating people.
So
I think that's a little of this.
That movie was fairly disturbing. Can I say the most disturbing part was the bikini wax? I don't know why, but that was like the most disturbing part of the film for me. So,
not the cannibalism.
Cannibalism's
fine.
I love it.
I'm used to it. This is a great one. I love that there is a Chekhov's gun moment because John's such a fan of those, where they're on the highway and they hear all the loud explosions. We don't see them because they don't have the budget
yeah.
to show them, but they're doing highway construction and like, oh, that's the TNT they're using to widen the highway. And then it comes back.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he just drove right there. Okay, that I didn't even put that together
Yeah.
until you
Yeah,
mentioned
me
it.
too.
That's where he got the TNT. Okay, no, that makes total sense. That's great. Okay, well, let me say something really quick. Roy, do you have the cast list in front of you? Can you just help refresh my memory? Who played who?
No, I mean, but I can pull it up, right?
All right, and who played Elizabeth, the other girl, the blonde one?
Okay, you already know who. It's Beverly Washburn, who in her IMDb profile page is very clearly wearing a Star Trek uniform.
Antonio, do you have it queued up? Can you play my clip?
Hi, everybody. This is Beverly Washburn, and you're listening to JR Watches Star Trek for the first time.
Space, the final frontier.
Okay,
Oh,
so this
wow.
was the most exciting part of the movie for me because my first Star Trek convention, Roy and I were doing, it was at the time when Roy and I were doing our Star Trek podcast called JR Watches Star Trek for the first time. And I'm like, what if I found a Star Trek person who could plug our podcast? And she was the very first Star Trek actor. And she was in an episode of the original series called The Deadly Years, where it's very fitting, where she got the old woman disease. And by the time I met up with her, she was like a fairly decently aged woman, but very eager and very cool. And she plays like this little girl in this movie. So it's like my views of Beverly Washburn are just skewed all over the timeline of
That's awesome.
aged people. But I think she's still with us. I'm pretty sure she's still with us. But
Yeah.
she was like the first friend I made at the Star Trek convention.
Oh.
And so I had a lot of endearment watching this movie, watching her kill invaders to the home. It was great.
She's also in Old Yeller. She's the little sister. in
Yeah,
Old
I did
Yeller.
see that she's an Old Yeller. She's in a lot of old related properties. She's in the old episode of Star Trek and Old Yeller. Yeah.
And Spider Baby.
And she's old now.
Awesome. Well, yeah, I'm glad you brought this one because it's one that I have not had on the podcast yet, which blows my mind because it is such a cult-worthy film. I mean, it already has its own cult, and it also has the benefit of being a lost movie for a long time, too. So that adds to the mystere of it.
That's the big cult item. That's what I read. What did it? It was like lost until like 1990 or
Yeah,
something.
all there was like
some crazy
a
date.
duplicated VHS that just kept going around and around and around and around until it got popular enough where Jack Hill's like, I think I know where the negative is, and struck new prints, and there we go.
Thanks to you guys. Yeah, it was a fun week watching this movie, and I know it's old hat for you too, but I'm glad it was around.
Well, I can't wait to speak about the next one because it is the funniest movie of the three that we've brought to the table. John brought 1961's The Children's Hour.
Laugh Riot.
Laugh Riot.
That was, I think that was the pull quote on the poster. It's a laugh riot. Okay, I'm going to be really quick on what goes on here. First of all, I mean, okay, this is a higher level. This isn't because Shirley MacLaine, Audrey Hepburn. I mean, come on, and James Garner to an extent, but Shirley MacLaine, Audrey Hepburn, right? I'm going to see if I can do this in 30 seconds. They run a girls' school. And one of the girls is this girl, Mary, and I don't know the actor's name. And she wasn't in very many things, but I assume
she didn't do a lot.
Yeah, I assume this just was her. This is the most frightening kid of all the kids we're going to talk about, I think, for weird reasons. And I think the biggest thing is you can see it in her eyes that she is not owning her villainhood. She seriously has this delusion that she's not affecting anybody, that she's the victim, and your title, Beat on the Brats, she is a brat to the extent that she just has zero awareness. I mean, she's a total sociopath. I mean, Macaulay Culkin, he's a sociopath, but he's like, I kind of know I'm a sociopath, so I'm going to say some cool things.
I'm going to embrace it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. She is not cool. She is the worst. And it all comes down to, since she's just such a victim all the time, she totally feels that she is good and justified in starting a rumor that, and by the way, this movie, they don't use the word lesbian. I think they weren't allowed to use the word lesbian. But I mean, you may as well use the word lesbian because the way they skirt around it is way more lurid than
It is
just saying
100%.
lesbian.
They say lovers. They say lovers a lot, especially in the last
They say
half.
lovers,
Yeah.
yes.
And they don't
I'm
say
like,
it
oh my gosh,
nicely.
you're putting emotion into this lesbianism here. But this little girl starts the rumor that Shirley MacLaine and Audrey Hepburn are lesbian lovers. And so the rumor spreads like wildfire in the sense that it spreads like in 10 minutes. Like within 10 minutes, all the children are removed from the school and they are broken and they and their lives are over. And James Garner, he's standing by his fiance Audrey Hepburn just fine until he's like, so did it happen? I'm sorry I asked. Our lives are over. And it sends everybody over the edge. And so I'm going to kind of skip to the end. The big bombshell, of course, is that Shirley MacLaine says, I do love you and I do want this. To which I say, Shirley MacLaine, I have never in my life known a woman who also isn't in love with Audrey Hepburn. So
Agreed.
it's not really, it's kind of like, okay, yeah, no, we saw that coming, right? I feel like most women love Audrey Hepburn more than most men love Audrey Hepburn, and most men love Audrey Hepburn a lot. So, I mean, who's to blame here? Is anyone to blame? I mean, who wouldn't be in love with Audrey Hepburn? I think that's the point of the movie, right?
Just can be blamed for being there. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just
she
her
could
fault
be
for
blamed.
existing.
She should be blamed because Shirley MacLaine says, I first saw you running across the quad and I thought, what a pretty girl. And what else are you going to think? But this movie it's like the melodrama. There is just a lot of, I can't even speak because I'm so overwrought. And
William Wyler, the director, was known for his melodramas, like him and Douglas Sirk for sure. The thing I can say about this movie is that like there are a lot of things that you have to be paying attention. You can't be like looking at your phone because, especially with Mary Tilford, the bad girl in this, who, I mean, her and Rhoda Penmark are like neck and neck of who's the worst child, right? Mary didn't necessarily kill anybody, but she is definitely responsible for the death of somebody. But remember, she's a lot more manipulative than I think Rhoda is, because we've got baby Veronica Cartwright, who is like the klepto.
We're always talking about Veronica Cartwright.
Always talking about Veronica Cartwright.
Yeah.
And she had her scream on way back then too. She's like a little klepto, right? She's like stealing things from the other girls. And that's kind of like the catalyst where how Mary has these ideas in her head of what happened was because they were like reading a saucy novel together, and that's where she got the ideas of what she translates this relationship to be. And that's what she tells her grandmother. She has no idea what these things even mean. She's just repeating what she read in this book. So we got all these other things that are adding to the story. We got her controlling little klepto Veronica Cartwright by like, hey, I won't tell on you if you help support my lie, right? And you won't get in trouble. But then we've also got them sneaking in dirty romance novels in there. And Mary's whole thing of like, she is just like a pathological liar. She just has to lie. Like, truth doesn't make any sense to her. And that's what really creates this situation, is her just having to lie about things. Lying about, I got these flowers down by the river, when she really just stole them from the front yard, but refuses to admit it. And so getting called out on that is kind of the catalyst of her wanting revenge.
It seemed like a pretty harsh punishment that Audrey Hepburn handed down for like just lying about the dumb flowers. But yeah, man, that little girl. So then, like you said, John, you didn't get to the end. Do you want to get to the end where we can explain like what she really like? Okay, what she actually caused, right? Like she did cause an awful tragedy. So, John, finish.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I could just say it. I mean, I suppose I'm okay. If you spoilers ahead for the last 30 seconds of this movie. I gave everything away but the last 30 seconds. But since their lives are ruined and everyone's split apart and there's no use, anything going on, Shirley MacLaine kills herself. And it's almost like, gosh, did you have to go that far? We've been through the ringer already. I kind of wonder, I don't know if I would have done it that way, but it's just, I mean, it's quite a nail in the coffin. It's like this little kid's rumor, because she had to start a rumor, it resulted in this. And even after everything was figured out, after everyone
their
kind of
names were
learned the
cleared.
truth, this is after they find out this little kid is lying. And it's after, the grandmother who spread the rumor said, I will do whatever it takes to make this right. The damage was so extreme that even when things were setting back on the track, it still wasn't enough to prevent a life from going away.
And that's where I do have an issue with this movie. I don't have an issue with it because of when it came out and the political and sociological mindset of the time. But I mean, in this day and age, the moral compensation of the whole bury your gays kind of plays towards how this movie ends. Because Shirley MacLaine doesn't kill herself because of the lie. She kills herself because of the truth. The fact that she had to face the truth that she actually was in love with her business partner and best friend. And that's what she can't live with. She can't live with the fact that she actually confessed her love because she felt she had to. And of course, it wasn't reciprocated. So even though everything was fixed and life could go back to status quo and apologies were made, she can't face the fact that she is this way and feels that way. And so that's where the melodrama of the bury your gays trope kind of comes in. And it's a good movie and it's a strong ending, but I feel like it's probably misconstrued depending on which generation's watching it.
Right. Now that you mention it, it seems a little bit Hays Cody, like, okay, you know what? She really is a lesbian. Right. Okay, she has.
It's the same as Rhoda getting struck by lightning.
Yeah,
yeah,
right.
yeah.
So it's fascinating.
Like God has to decree this. Yeah.
So because I read some things about like how do people perceive this film now, and so for me, like the little girl, she's awful. She is just the worst. But also, it's the society that reacts the way that it does that actually causes all the problems, because they could just say,
right,
you're a crummy little girl, and well, that's their private life, right? And I have to remind myself when I'm watching this, but also as I'm reading reviews, like some of the people who leave reviews, maybe they need to be reminded that this movie was made 60 years ago. And
right.
and so, but I think what kills her is because of when she's raised and how she's raised. When she finally realizes that she is a lesbian, she has an enormous heaps of internalized homophobia. So she already is like repulsed by herself, right? Because no one has been around to like explain to her what's going on, or that it's okay, it's not bad, it doesn't make her bad. So the only like hope that she has is, if I share with the person I love the most in the whole world who I am, and they will accept me, and then maybe somehow I can get through this. And it doesn't work out, and when that doesn't work out, like all she's got left is like her world is ruined, and she just can't even stand to be alive. And to be honest, so I mean, so my daughter is a lesbian as well, and I mean, this was only like 5 years ago, and I mean, there were suicidal thoughts, right? And you would think that we're in an advanced age today, and things are much better than they were 60 years ago. But I think most people who are gay or lesbian, when they realize they still have this internalized homophobia that they gotta fight through. And I think that's kind of what kills her in this film. So anyway.
Yeah, no, it can be looked at so many different ways. And I guess in the original play, she shoots herself, which, I mean, that can be captured cinematically by hearing the gunshot from upstairs and running up and seeing the body. But they changed it to a hanging so William Wyler could have that pretty gripping shot of feet dangling in the final frame of the movie. That, I think, really, really works. And also the fact that there isn't a gunshot, it does leave us with a suspicion of what actually is behind the door. Like the intensity of like, Is she there? Is she sleeping? Did she drink poison? Did she stab herself? She hung herself. Like, I think that does add to the suspense and the melodrama, and I liked it. I liked it much better than a gunshot.
Yeah, I loved it too. I mean, the fact that she kills herself is just this crazy gut punch, but it's so beautifully done where you just see a shadow of the rope hanging from the rafter or whatever, and then like you said, there's a chair that's knocked over, and then finally the feet dangling, and it's just the 1 + 1 + 1 = 3, and 3 is bad, and so
Right,
really
and it's a
well
what
done.
now ending, which I always love. There is no like resolution for Hepburn's character. We don't know if she gets back together with James Garner. Probably not, because he kind of gives the frowny face. You know, she just kind of walks away. And I think a what now ending is the perfect way to end this movie because, I mean, that's life, right? Life's nothing but what nows.
Yeah. So he lost his job as well, I believe. Like he was finally forced out of his medical practice. Yeah.
Yeah. Unless he broke off the engagement
Yeah, that's right.
and like publicly denounce her.
Some of the interactions were just it's just kind of like the dehumanizing of it all. It's like the surgeon in charge, and I feel like his back is to us the whole time. We don't even really see his face. He's like, okay, yeah, no, you'll get your job back. All you have to do is just sever your relationship. And he says it as if, oh, because this person is in this scandal, I mean, surely you don't think she's human anymore.
Yeah.
This should be very easy for you. And he says it just so callously. The other kind of relation I have, like, and I don't know, this is kind of funny. I don't know if it's supposed to be funny, but I feel like they tapped into something like that's an unspoken thing, because all the women are in town are horrified by this, and all the men are like kind of agreeing with the horrification, but there is like the it brings out the grossness in men, because I think the men are also like, oh hey, you know,
Yeah, they're kind of fascinated by the idea of it.
This is exciting, and so you got the truckload of gazers. The dude standing in the truck smiling like, hey, this is the Lesbo house, and you know, so they're using the house as kind of like, okay, this is a house of our gays now, right?
Right.
So, and then there's the deliver guy who just kind of smirks at them and just walks slowly away. It's just like there's this gross male gaziness that comes with lesbianism.
It does do a great job at like making the environment and the society the villain without actually having them do many villainous things. Like they still keep that villainy firmly planted in Little Mary's character. And she's great. That little actress scares the shit out of me.
I wrote this down. She is a female. She's giving a female Kevin Corcoran vibe.
Which is scary in itself. Right. No, great movie. I seen this once a long time ago and it was due for a revisit. And like I said, it's a gripping melodrama, which is usually not my cup of tea. So I probably would not have brought it to the show had someone else not brought it to the show. So thank you for that.
John, first time you saw this one too?
Yeah, first time. I wasn't aware of this. We were, over at my house, we were looking for examples of bad kids, and we just kind of ran across the synopsis of this, and I was really unaware of it because, turning in my film buff card, whatever. I don't know about these things. I don't know until I see them. Yeah.
So I think when I had Netflix where they would actually mail you discs, remember when Netflix would do that? So I was on an Audrey Hepburn kick, and I just had them send me for 6 movies in a row, just Audrey Hepburn films, and this turned out to be one of them. And most Audrey Hepburn films are like Paris and beautiful clothes and color and fun and romance, and then this one was not. So that's when I saw it. But it's really good. I
learned about this one. I'm pretty sure the documentary from the 90s, The Celluloid Closet, I'm pretty sure is where they talked about this one about homosexuality in movies, before they were prevalent in the industry. This is one of the earlier examples where it flat out put it out there. It wasn't like a vague notion. It's like, no, this is what this is about. So yeah.
By the way, Shirley MacLaine, brilliant in this film.
Yeah,
so good. She has a lot of young Terry Garr vibes.
Yeah, she does.
It's so crazy to see Shirley MacLaine in her young, short-haired blondness. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, love it a lot. Okay, so now it's time for my contribution to this episode. I brought 1993's The Good Son, directed by Joseph Rubin, who also directed such hits as The Stepfather and Sleeping with the Enemy. I mean, it's not melodrama for sure, but it's definitely got that cheesy 90s thriller flair where you have to suspend your disbelief that someone could actually be this evil every moment of every day, yet nobody except the victim notices, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
If there was ever an adults are blind and useless and completely oblivious to the fact that their son is a psychopath, this is the movie. Because they don't even suspect.
And the son has the power to call to parents to have them open the door right as Elijah Wood has like scissors in his hand at his neck or something, because that happens several times. It's like, okay, the parents are always going to walk in making, Elijah Wood look bad. Yeah.
The film is directed as if this was like an adult thriller and these were like adult people doing dangerous adult things, but they put them in like 10-year-olds, which is kind of brilliant, and that it's tongue in cheek, so it plays okay. So I'll kind of just go over the synopsis quickly like John did. So Elijah Wood's mom is dying / dead. And his dad, I assume, is some kind of like real estate developer or something. And he does a lot of business all around the world. And so, God, wouldn't you know it, that mom dies just the day before I'm supposed to go to Japan and close the big deal. So already facing like this fear of death and this mourning and this idea that his mom's coming back, instead of canceling the big deal in Tokyo to care for his son, David Morse, who's his dad, decides to take him to his uncle's house on the other side of the country in Maine, Stephen King territory, to spend a few weeks with the uncle, the aunt, and his two cousins, one of them being Henry, played by Macaulay Culkin, who's nice at first. He does show up in a creepy Halloween mask, essentially. That's how he introduces himself. And the two seem to hit it off at first, but also, we all know a bad kid when we see them, and this is a bad kid.
When he shows up with the mask on, why don't his parents go, "What is wrong with you? Why would you wear that mask?" So his sister is played by Macaulay Culkin's sister, right?
All the Culkin children have been in movies at one point or another, and that one of them is up for an Oscar this year, who I just saw as a kid in Father of the Bride last night. It's like, oh, wow, These guys go back decades.
Yeah.
Man,
Kieran,
so,
he's a national treasure.
National treasure. So one of the things that I think is interesting about like this friendship that they develop is Henry's got everyone fooled. Elijah Wood's following him around, but right off the bat, they're climbing a tree, which is the most dangerous tree house any kid could ever have. like these parents are terrible, because if dad helped build that tree house, then dad sucks. If Henry built him by himself, dad still sucks because he didn't watch or supervise the building of this disastrous
How many
treehouse.
uncles and cousins died during the construction of that treehouse?
It's like that treehouse was already there, and that is why Henry is the way he is he's continuously possessed by children who have died in this treehouse. But like Elijah Wood slips and falls, and Henry grabs him by the arm, and dead behind the eyes says, "If I let you go, do you think you could fly?" It's not a threat.
That was really big in the trailers. I remember that
was the trailer. I remember that.
Yeah, and I was surprised seeing it this time to see that happens in the first 20 minutes of the movie. I thought that was like this really creepy thing that happens toward the end. But yeah,
is this
that's the trailer?
Is this Chekhov's hand grab?
Yeah,
it is. Yeah.
Well, okay,
Chekhov's
this
hand
movie's
grab.
full of Chekhov everything, because there's Chekhov's hand grab, and then the next scene is them wandering through the woods, coming upon a cliff where his mom overlooks the ocean, thinking of her dead baby who died in a bathtub accident. So we also have Chekhov's cliff.
Chekhov's cliff.
She's just waiting for like a gothic artist to spot her. It's like, I must paint this scene.
I must paint you.
She's just like she's like in her nightgown, just like it's blowing in the wind, gazing into the sea. It's just such a movie looking moment.
Yeah.
It's such a movie house too, because it's a beautiful house, literally on the shore of the ocean, with like awesome woods and like a boatyard and then cliffs. It's like, oh, this is the perfect place to have a thriller where we can throw people off cliffs later on. You know?
Do we know where they came from, by the way? Because where the soccer game was at the beginning, where Mom died at the beginning, and I think
they were in Arizona, so they went
were
from
in
Arizona to Maine.
Okay. Well, that's one. I think he said he drove through 11 states.
In like
and I
3 days or
counted.
something.
I looked at a map and I'm like, you can get to Texas. I don't think you can get to New Mexico, because I was thinking maybe they were in New Mexico.
Isn't it funny how like
okay.
David Morse always plays like the most useless dad in any movie? You know, like Contact, he's just dead in Contact and comes back as an alien, and the useless dad in this. Always a useless dad. So Henry starts noticing, so Elijah Wood starts noticing that Henry is like doing some really creepy things. At first they're kind of cool. It's like, oh, your dad lets you play with a crossbow bolt gun that you made by yourself in the shed. You know, all these dangerous, crazy things that he thinks are cool, but then he realizes that there is like dangerous intent behind them, like shooting dogs and trying to shoot cats in the neighborhood. He's hiding cigarettes in wells and smoking. Like, Henry's a bad kid. Which leads us to the Mr. Highway scene, which I remember as a kid being like, oh shit. Where Henry has built a dummy called Mr. Highway, which they push off an overpass and create like a 20-car pileup.
Oh man, that was stressful, seeing the cars crunch against each other for like a good minute. They're like crashing into each other for like a minute. And I wish someone like kind of said like it was like on the news or something where his mom said, "Oh, Henry, someone stole your mask that you scared Elijah Wood with earlier." But you know, that never comes up. I kind of wanted that to play in, but he gets, it's weird. It's like this psychopath kid gets all the breaks. No one assumes, because apparently that dummy, I guess, was just disintegrated on impact. Nothing to lead back to Macaulay Culkin.
So are we to assume then, because this is the way I've always assumed it watching this movie, but sometimes I wonder if I'm actually interpreting things right, that I don't think Henry would have really done anything too bad to Elijah Wood had he not had that wake up in the middle of the night and have the one-on-one with the mom where essentially she's like, well, I can be your mother now. And they have like this bonding moment. Is that the catalyst that all of a sudden now Henry's like, oh, you're taking my mom? Well, I'm going to kill you. Is that what it is? Because I feel like Henry would have been bad, but he wouldn't have tried to kill until that moment.
I feel like that's what's stated a little bit, but that it's still kind of a reach, but I think that's possible.
Well, but he killed his younger brother. Okay, we might as well just say it. That bathtub drowning was no accident, right? So he killed his younger brother to like remove that obstacle between him and his mom, right? Because his mom loved that other kid, right?
Can I have a theory about the first one.
Okay. Let me finish the rubber ducky thing, because I can never tell if it's because of the mom attachment or because the baby had Henry's rubber ducky, which is even more evil. It's like if he killed the baby over rubber ducky, because he takes the rubber ducky and he hides it. And he's like, it was mine first. So I'm like, okay, so did he kill the baby over the rubber ducky, or did he kill it over the mom giving more attention?
And also, is this souvenir keeping?
It's true, because in The Bad Seed, Rhoda was like ready to kill the old lady so she could get like her lovebirds. You know, like the sociopath, psychopath. It doesn't take much to prompt them.
I have a thing. This kind of doesn't make sense with the trophy keeping, because he does that quite soon. Mm-hmm. One of my theories is, okay, Macaulay Culkin, yes, he kills Henry. And that was the first act that led to, you know, his psychosis. And I think, you know, according to, I guess most people would say, okay, he's always crazy. But he says to Elijah Wood, one day I realized that I could do anything. Mm-hmm. And that's what made me free. That's what enabled me to fly. And so I think a possibility is that, yes, he kills his little brother, but he doesn't mean to. Like, he was playing, maybe he was rough, maybe he did something really irresponsible, maybe he was a kid, maybe he pushed him underwater, maybe he did something, but he wasn't expecting the finality of death. And in order to deal with that, that's when that thing clicked in him. I'm going to be Raskolnikov. I'm going to be Nietzsche's, Superman. Suddenly this kid comes up with this philosophy and he realizes, okay, my whole world has changed from this moment, and I'm going to conform my own philosophy to conform with the action that I just did. And so that's what compelled him to, he's like, okay, if I can do whatever I want, then that justifies what I just did.
Which I agree with you 100% on that part, because that's why I said, like, this movie was written as if these weren't kids, as if these were adults, because he's spouting off philosophy like he is, in his treehouse reading Nietzsche all day. He's like, you know what? Yeah. I will be free if I just stop caring about the rules, and the consequences. Yeah. I'm freer than you, Elijah Wood.
But Elijah Wood definitely got Frodo for this, because... Like, I swear Peter Jackson saw this movie and he's like, that's a short kid, and he falls down a lot.
Always falling down and always put in, like, dangerous and desperate situations.
Yeah.
And he always needs saving. Always needs saving.
A lot of cliff grabs and stuff,
and yeah, so, like, I don't think that he tries to kill his little sister because he doesn't like his little sister, which he doesn't, that's obvious. I think he kills the little sister, or attempts to kill her, just to keep pushing Elijah Wood into insanity. Because the way the second half of the movie plays is it plays so thriller, where it's like, I'm not the crazy one, he's the crazy one. It's the gaslighting, it's the manipulation, it's the convincing the psychiatrist that Elijah Wood is the one with the psychological problems, that could be a murderer. He could be killing people any minute now. But me, little calm Henry, is going to, at least tell you what I think, and I'm worried about him. That she's the worst psychiatrist of all time, because it's so transparent. Again, adults in this movie are useless, but I kind of love it because it doesn't shy away from that.
Oh, especially when Henry shows up at the psychiatrist's office first, right? He's like, I was worried about my cousin, and I thought I would come and talk to you. How bad of a psychiatrist do you have to be to not, like, say, why would a kid come to my office and, like, and anyway, I don't know. It just should have been a big red flag. There's so many red flags, but
right,
yeah, so many red. But Elijah Wood, as he's doing the red flags, he says something. He says to the psychiatrist, outside of class, sure, but what do you what makes people evil? And she's like, well, evil is just a word that people say to something they don't understand. He's like, so you don't believe in evil? No. Well, you should. And then he walks away. And that is an evil moment. That is something a kid villain might do, I guess, or at least someone telling. Yeah.
And then as we, like, move towards the end, Mom becomes suspicious of Henry because she finds the rubber ducky. He's very violent to her, yet she still is like, yes, Henry, let's go take a walk together to the dangerous cliff that I stare at every afternoon. I'm sure nothing bad is going to happen. And then Henry is treated like a prisoner at large. They lock him in a room. He smashes a window to get out to save Mom. And this is an interesting part of the movie that I'm still trying to figure out. So when Henry and him are wrestling, Henry essentially is ready to die by taking them both off the edge of the cliff. I don't think that was accidental. I think Henry cares so little about life that for him, even if he dies, killing Elijah Wood is still a win. Did you guys read it that way, or am I?
Yeah, and well, even like when he's dangling from the cliff, he doesn't seem like he's terrified, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Because Mom's got both kids, one on each arm. And she has to make the choice, the King Solomon choice of who am I going to drop, right?
The Sophie's choice, which is easy when you realize, you have an evil son. I suppose Sophie's choice makes it much easier.
Yeah, but Sophie couldn't choose.
By the way, this is the mother from the Santa Claus movie.
Roy again on Mom Watch.
That's right.
That's a new podcast, Mom Watch, hosted by Roy Fillmore.
So speaking of Christmas movies, it feels like to me that Macaulay Culkin is almost playing Kevin McAllister. It's on a knife's edge where, like, on one side of it he's a kind of adorable, on the other side of it he's a psychopath. But also, like, the things he does in Home Alone are pretty bad. I think, John, were you in my film class our freshman year at BYU where the professor yelled at us for being entertained by Home Alone?
That may have been the day I slept in, but it makes sense. I love the idea of the good son being a response to Home Alone.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, you know what? This is Home Alone, but without a laugh track is all it is. Same kid.
Like, both Henry and Kevin McAllister, they're both very inventive children. They're creating gadgets and objects and traps and things like that. Manipulations. Yeah, I think it's really good. But also, I am of the opinion that Macaulay Culkin was just Macaulay Culkin in all of his movies as a child. I think he's even admitted that too. He's like, I didn't play shit. I was just there on the day. Richie Rich, it's just me, you know?
Yeah.
But I think one of the things that saves this movie, okay, I'm going to say three things really make this movie work for me. Number one, 87 minutes. Bring back the 87-minute movie where it's like, oh, it's already over? That went by so fast. Thank God, you know? I've been trying to convince myself to go see The Brutalist now like 5 times, but I don't want a 3-hour and 45-minute movie with an intermission at age 43 with kids at home. I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
You know? Bring back the 87-minute movie. Number 2, this movie doesn't work unless you have an actor like Elijah Wood being that good as the other kid. Because I've already got a problem with kids in movies. And if you had like a bad kid and Macaulay Culkin, this movie could screw itself. But Elijah Wood is so good and convincing in that role where it's like, okay, I'm kind of bought in on this performance, this dynamic, and they are playing it like adults.
A novice casting director would probably reverse the roles. Because Elijah Wood, he's got the dark hair, he's got weird eyes, he looks like an evil kid, Elijah Wood. And Macaulay Culkin is already someone like it. Everyone loves Macaulay Culkin, right?
Yeah.
But the switching really works because, yeah, Macaulay Culkin can just be straight, and Elijah Wood can emote the way Elijah Wood. Like, I can't see Macaulay Culkin doing quite what Elijah Wood does.
Yeah, well, and I think that's that's the whole intent of the director is like, hey, America, you guys love Macaulay Culkin. Now guess what, right? So, I mean, it's just...
That was the trailer. Yeah. The trailer was like, everyone's favorite kid is gone bad, you know? Yeah, I totally remember that. I remember seeing the trailer for the first time. Did you guys ever have Channel 1 when you guys were in junior high or high school?
On the that they bring it into TV. Yeah, I had it at one of my junior highs. Yeah,
Channel 1. Where it was like, yeah, you start the morning off with like news for kids, and it had like Lisa Ling, and I think Anderson Cooper was one of the hosts too, way back in the day. And then would play movie trailers. It was an excuse just to market to kids, right? Here's some news for kids, but also here's commercials for Pepsi and the Wayne's World movie, and then The Good Son. That's where I remember seeing it. And I saw it in the theater.
How much more refreshed will you be? Pepsi? Partial credit. Yes, I remember that. Yeah.
So yeah. And the third thing that makes this movie really work for me is the fact that it is so just on the nose with its 90s thriller isms. It's unapologetic. It is not trying to be too smart for its own good. It is exactly what we were expecting of a thriller in the 90s. Like Pacific Heights and Sleeping with the Enemy and Sliver. I mean, those are all erotic thrillers, but they're in the same wheelhouse as this. They play the same notes. And it's the notes that I miss because now I feel thrillers have to be too smart for their own good or borderline horror. We don't have movies like this anymore that it's just like, here's a scare, here's some suspense, here's some action, and you're home. Like, I love the simplicity of it.
It's just enough, like, because I have just enough social anxiety where you put me in a situation where someone says something just a little off norm, and I'm like, oh, what am I supposed to do about this thing? They have me in under this social mores barrel. Like, what can I possibly do? I can't tell this person's mom. Or I do try to do it, and she winds up slapping me. That's the result, right? It's just like, just someone just crazy enough can put me in a position where I'm like, oh, I feel super awkward and people are going to die and I'm just going to sit here feeling awkward about it. And that's scary to me.
Well, so now let's do what we always do when we have these conversations. Let's bring them into the winner's circle. Roy, how would you rank these in order from 1, 2, and 3?
Okay, 1. So starting at my top.
Yep.
Okay, I'm gonna go with Children's Hour. I think the acting is great. I mean, it's the story is what it is, and it's hard to tell if in the '60s they're trying to say this is what happens when you lie, or if they're trying to say like, hey, look at these gay people. I don't know, but I like the performances are just incredible. And I don't know if I really think that this girl is the most evil of our evil kids, but she's pretty bad, and I want to give her, what's her name? It's not Tabitha. What's her name? Mary. I want to give her Shaken Mary syndrome. Shaken Mary's syndrome. Yeah. So anyway, that's my number 1. Number 2, Spider Baby, because it's just so much darn fun. Love Spider Baby so much. And then The Good Son's my number 3. The Good Son is probably, it might be the most unsettling of the 3. And it's still really good. But anyway, that's my ranking.
I have to go with the Children's Hour because of the prestige. Part of me doesn't want to pick the Children's Hour.
You feeling pressured?
Well, yeah.
If it makes you feel better, I'm not picking Children's Hour.
Look, it's Audrey Hepburn, it's Shirley MacLaine. And so it's like, we're talking, we're here, we're on the Cultworthy podcast. This is a little bit, and we always, I mean, maybe this is a little too mainstream for, what your podcast is, Antonio, because I mean, I don't know if this is considered a cult classic, but it is relatively unknown and it's taboo. And so
it's obscure enough to count.
Yeah. And so for all of those things, I think, when we finished our conversation about it, I kind of had a bad taste in my mouth because of, come to think of it, I think they did go too far with the ending, and it is an ending like of its time a little bit. And there may have been some kind of pressure, and it didn't really. It's certainly not, in 2025 and with rainbow flags and the way we talk now, it doesn't really jive with that so much. But I mean, it's in black and white. So what can you do?
Well, but so I hate it when I kind of hate the idea that we have to treat it as though it was made in 2025. I like being able to have a conversation about, and this is how this film was made in the 60s. This is how this was treated, right? So I still enjoyed that conversation. Yeah.
And I still maintain it treats things, it could have been worse. I mean, that's the way you kind of got to read it. It could have been like way worse. And
Audrey could have murdered what's her head after she confessed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
and then herself.
The thing is, the feels in it are genuine. Yeah. And I think that's the most important thing. So, but I'm going to go Good Son second. And I'll Spider Baby third, but with the caveat that, the next movie I watch, if I watch all these again tomorrow, I'm probably going to start with Spider Baby. So that's the caveat of it being in last place, because it's like, okay, you know what? I might watch this one every year, but the other ones I'm just glad I watched and I appreciated the conversation we had about them. But Spider Baby's probably going to be my pleasure from here on out.
Yeah.
I think that's a good way to do it, because Spider Baby, I think Roy and I have the advantage of seeing it at least twice, if not several times, and each time you absorb more and more of it, right? That's how I am with it. So that being said, Spider Baby is my number 1.
Woo.
Because each time I watch it, more and more, I get more out of it, and I appreciate it more, and just recognize the DNA of future filmmakers, because that's what this podcast is mostly about. It's like, hey, this movie that no one really saw, well, Spielberg saw it, and Lynch saw it, and these guys saw it, and they've all kind of worked it into who they are as filmmakers. So yeah, that's why I put it as number 1. I'm putting Children's Hour at number 2, because it's not an entertaining movie by any means. It's a thought-provoking movie. It's a gut-wrenching movie, and sometimes you're in the mood for that. But I do love the performances. I'm a sucker for melodrama, and I'm a sucker for really good child acting. And this is the one that wins the child acting award, in my opinion, because both of those girls, Veronica Cartwright and Little Mary, oh my God, they are so good. Veronica Cartwright, I mean, we already knew that she was good from The Birds, being a child in distress. And that just kind of is what she is for the rest of her career. screaming and being in extreme anxiety. No one does it better. And then in third place, I'll put The Good Son. And I love The Good Son. It was my pick. I wish it went harder in the paint. I think it could have been darker. I think it could have been more violent. But I get why when it came out, you can't make Macaulay Culkin like the worst kid ever right off the bat, right? So,
but him dropping the F-bomb like he does, I'm like, that was Macaulay Culkin doing that. It's
right.
It goes a long way. It's kind of funny how far it goes, but I guess with how far it goes, you're like, oh, I can see how much farther it can go with that in mind.
Yeah,
too.
when he says that, you just want to go, Kevin. How dare you say that?
You watch your mouth.
So we were spared like a scene of Kevin of Henry like without any feeling tearing off his fingernail or something super gross, right? So like you said, it doesn't get as bad as it could have gone, but maybe I don't know if people could have handled much more than this movie provided at the time.
Yeah, maybe not.
But we know Antonio could have handled more because
I can always handle more.
Yeah.
All right, guys. This was a fun conversation. Like every time we get together on my show, for one, we're not doing 3 hours, but we're also not as in depth as you guys are with your show. But these conversations are great because we're talking about, kids in danger and now kids who are the danger. And keeping this theme up is a lot of fun because it's getting me over my, I'm not going to say phobia, but my distaste of children in movies. I'm getting a lot more appreciative of good child performances that don't seem, coaxed or overly coached or line readings given to them where they actually feel like they're sincere performances. And these three all were really, really good ones. So yeah, this was a good one.
So my most recent favorite child actor performance is I think her name is Elisha Weir, and she plays Abigail, which I just saw like 2 weeks ago.
Abigail was fun.
That movie was brilliant.
Yeah.
Man, I love that movie. She's wonderful in that movie. So good for her. You can be a good child actor.
And a modern day cult classic in the making, in my opinion.
Yeah, maybe next time we can talk about that one.
Absolutely. All right. Well, thank you, listeners, so much for joining us for this conversation. You can find links to Yours, Mine, and Theirs in the notes of this episode on YouTube and all the listening platforms, and on the partners page on thecultworthy.com. Click on it, follow them on Spotify, give them 5 stars, rate, review, all that good stuff. And listen on Spotify so people get their votes counted towards their end of the year most listened to episode.
Yes, do it. Yeah, your votes, your Spotify votes matter. So if you time it right, you can win Antonio another mug, or you can win a mug. If you're a new listener, let us know. We'd like to talk to you.
Yeah, come negotiate how to win a mug with us.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Great time. Thank you so much. Next time you'll see the three of us together, we'll be on their show, which I can't wait. So stick around, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks, Antonio.
Thank you.